Hey guys, it's Steve from Featherlight, and in this video we're going to take a quick look at just the two keyboard engines and all of the layering possibilities of the new YC series keyboards from Yamaha. Now, I've already done a complete video on this keyboard, so I'll leave that info in the links below, but for the time being, let's dive in and find out a little bit more about this powerhouse keyboard. Next up is the Keys A and B sound engines, and these give us two completely independent sound engines separate from the organ, and they can all be used together. And each one of the engines can draw voices from any of the four categories shown over here by this red rocker switch. Each one of the engines can be turned on or off simply by hitting these two little momentary switches, either A or B, and that shuts the engine off and turns it back on again. There is a ton of really impressive sounds to choose from in each one of the Keys A and B libraries, many of them taken from the CP series pianos as well as the motif library of sounds. Which means you don't need to decide what to leave out. For example, if you're trying to fill up your sample space in a Nord keyboard, you already have a ton of great sounds to choose from on board in memory to start with, including some samples that already come pre-layered, like piano and strings and piano and synth, if you don't feel like building those layers yourself. So one of the nicest things to discover about this layout and the design, aside from having that huge library of sounds to choose from for both of the engines, is building layers and splits couldn't be easier on this board. It's a real joy to have something that's intuitive. So for example, if we have, say we have the CFX here on our first layer, and we engage the second engine, now we've got slow strings on it as well. We can certainly just adjust the level of the strings right there on the fly. Maybe we don't want to use that particular knob to do it, or we want to save that knob because we want to assign it to something else. Assigning it to another function couldn't be easier. So for example, if we hit the settings button and then we scroll down to controllers, hit enter and scroll down to modulation lever, so that's our mod wheel, we hit assign and simply move that knob, and now our strings are going to be controlled by our modulation lever. All we have to do is move them up like we showed at the beginning of the video, and that brings in our strings now. So any controller or any knob can be assigned a function. The same is true for assigning splits. From here, from our control panel, we simply hit the quick button for split point, and from there we simply choose any key we want for our split point. Looking closely at our LCD, setting up splits couldn't be easier. The split button down here, after we've already determined our split point, simply determines where on the board each one of our two sounds is going to play. We're currently working on keyboard A, that's A's engine, and that shows us whether it's going to play the top or the bottom or all of the board. Currently, it's going to play all, as you can see the indicators there. We hit it one more time, that tells us it's only going to play on the bottom. And the other time, it's only going to play on the top of the split point. And then when we choose B, which is currently our fretless bass sound, which we can see in the menu there, same thing applies. Rounding out the audio engines sections, we have the effects for each one of the audio engines that are specific to the voices themselves. So this is separate from the effects section of the board, which largely affects the organ and some other things, but can also be added to these voices. Currently, the effect that's assigned to this area here for the top voice, which is our CFX, is damper resonance. So add a little bit of that. Let's see what that sounds like by changing this depth knob. So we can add or subtract that amount of damper resonance and affect the depth of it. And on our bass for our B audio engine, which is currently our fretless bass sound down here, it's completely dry, so let's engage that engine. And this is a Hall reverb, so let's add a little bit of that just to give that bass a little life. And the last section on the board is our effects section. These are vast and powerful and way more than we could go into on one quick look at the board, but this will give you a broad overview of what it's capable of. The first segment in here is the effects section. You can choose which of the audio engines it's going to work on, whether it's the organ or the key A or B. So in addition to all the parameters there are for each one of the effects, there's even a looper delay in here that allows you to do complex repeating loop-based patterns as well. So a ton of stuff to choose from here. The second section is going to be our speaker and amp combination. We can choose to affect either organ, key A or B, and then we've got a bunch of different ones to choose from. Lead, crunch, doubles, cases, all kinds of speaker and amp combinations to play with here, including our rotary controls. And our rotary controls can be dramatically different and can really change the sound of stuff depending on what it's on. So we engage the rotary, and it's on rotary A. You can change the tone of rotary A. And rotary B can change the sound dramatically. The last and final segment is the reverb segment, and that controls the entire board if you want it to. For example, right now all the LEDs are lit. By simply pressing that little send button, we can send only the organ to the reverb, or key engine A, key engine B, or the entire board. So that's a quick look at just the 2 keyboard engines and all of the layering and creative possibilities with the new YC series keyboards from Yamaha. Hey, if you learned something or if this was helpful in any way, please hit the subscription and notification bells. Stay safe out there, you guys. Be creative, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.